after 2 years of COVID, it's going to be even more difficult to reach that particular target. But the government also sort of set out on its manifesto to build 1 million homes by the end of the Parliament.
To work during COVID?
Well, but in terms of people buying homes where they were going to originally, sort of lots of people stayed at home. The market, sort of in terms of a buyer's market, it didn't quite pick up.
But I was just going to say, Eamon touched on this before when he was saying that, you know, they're building houses and apartments in places now and wrecking communities and wrecking, you know, towns and villages, the way they're putting the houses up. I mean, that's true, isn't it? Communities being destroyed.
Well, that's part of the reason why there's been this tension between developers and people that put in the planning applications, and then you have a local council that will ultimately decide on that application. But then if it's overruled by a planning inspectorate, some unknown person that then comes in and decides, actually, yes, you should have that development, or not that one, or yes, you should have more homes in a particular area that does infringe on a green belt, or you shouldn't. That's what's created the tension, I think, in wanting to have more homes in this country, and that's why we haven't seen the development that we should have done. So I think today is about readdressing that and making sure that actually, yes, it's about the small things, so converting shops and unused units into new accommodation.
They've said before, Charlie.
Yes.
They have, but it's making it much more simpler than what I think it has been before. So you would hope immediately, but the Housing Secretary is announcing it now. And I'm sure he's...
And I keep reading it, and I walk around my local high street where I live, and I think, blimey, all these shops are supposed to be flats, Mr Michael Gove. Why aren't they? They're still empty.
Well, and again, I think that probably still goes back to the tension that there might be with local communities and local authorities that haven't been able to or feel empowered enough to make that sort of conversion, or if applications haven't come in. So it's making sure that the process is streamlined.
It's about politics too, because you've lost all those by-elections to the Lib Dems. The blue wall is collapsing, Charlie.
Well,
because and so Tories are suddenly, we're not going to build anything here, we're not going to build anything here, and let Labour build on those sites.
Well, that's why I think it's about making sure that you have in areas where people do want homes, so the West Midlands, where the Prime Minister is today, and where Andy Street, the brilliant Conservative Mayor of the West Midlands, is screaming out for more development. And that's why in places like Birmingham, in London, in Leeds, in many other cities across the UK, which are quite densified already, you can expand those cities even further and get the homes that this country needs.
It's why they've got to get this immigration thing sorted out, because there's not enough homes for anybody, let alone having 500 people crossing the channel every other day.
80,000 a year extra to house. There are people who've been on waiting lists for years now.
Yeah, 45,000 in hotels, 55,000 dispersed by local councils.
And that's where the anger and the resentment is, isn't there? When they see this happening, that, you know, I mean, I was reading the stories the other day about a lady who was a migrant who come over here, and she was really upset because she'd been put in a hostel but she wanted her own house. And I'm thinking, how can you have a house when there's a waiting list here? We have 271,000 homeless people in this country who would like to have a house and can't get one.
Well, that's why I think in the next election there will be a real choice, and, you know, this Conservative government wants to tackle the big issues of the day. It's not going to talk about sort of, you know, tweaking transgender rights here or there. You know, important issue though it is, but it's not something that necessarily the whole country is talking about. So it's making sure that you build the homes that this country needs. You have an NHS workforce plan that tackles the challenges of the NHS and beating the backlog. You deal with the economy, so inflation coming down, and you stop the boats and you stop the migrant crisis that we have in this country. Those are the big ticket items that people in this country are going to vote for. It's the Conservatives that seem to have the plan.